In 1970, a woman's body was discovered in a remote Norwegian valley. She'd been burned, and her identity was completely erased. The investigation that followed uncovered a bizarre trail of coded messages, disguises, and multiple passports, sparking theories of espionage at the height of the Cold War. But every clue only seemed to make the mystery deeper. This is the story of the Isdal Woman, and the question that has haunted investigators for over 50 years. Who was she, and what really happened in the Ice Valley? Section 1. The Discovery in the Ice Valley. It all starts on November 29, 1970. A man and his two young daughters are hiking through the Isdal Valley, a rugged remote area just outside Bergen, Norway. Locals have a grim nickname for the valley, Dødsdalen, or Death Valley, a nod to its history of medieval suicides and modern hiking accidents. And on this day, it would certainly live up to its name. There, in a small clearing tucked away among the rocks, they made a horrific discovery. It was a woman's body lying on her back in a strange, almost staged position. The front of her body was so intensely burned that her face was unrecognizable. The scene was just odd. Next to her was an empty liquor bottle, a couple of plastic water bottles, and a fur hat. Scattered nearby were the remnants of burned clothing and an umbrella. But weirdly, a watch and some jewelry had been placed neatly beside her, as if they were part of a ceremony. The man and his daughters rushed back to Bergen to get the police. The Bergen police launched a full-scale investigation, File 134/70. But from the get-go, they were stumped. There was no wallet, no ID, nothing at the scene that could tell them who this woman was. It was as if her identity had been systematically scrubbed before the fire was even lit. The first forensic investigator on the scene, Tormod Bonus, later told the BBC that the way the objects were placed looked like some kind of ritual. The mystery of the Isdal Woman had officially begun. Section 2. The Autopsy and a Questionable Ruling. The woman's body was sent to the Gade Institute at Haukeland Hospital for a full autopsy, which only uncovered more contradictions. The examination revealed she was likely between 30 and 45 years old, about 5 feet 4, with dark hair. She also had distinctive gold and porcelain dental work, suggesting she had access to sophisticated dentistry that wasn't common in Norway at the time. The cause of death was even more baffling. The autopsy confirmed she died from a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning, meaning she was alive when the fire started, and an overdose of sleeping pills. In her stomach, the medical examiner found between 50 and 70 undissolved phenobarbital sleeping pills. That's a powerful barbiturate. But here's the twist. The amount that had actually been absorbed into her bloodstream wasn't enough to kill her. She would have been drowsy and weak, but probably still conscious. This strange mix of clues led police to a swift and what many felt was a premature conclusion: probable suicide. The theory was that she took the pills, then set herself on fire. The case was quickly considered closed, but this ruling never sat well with many of the officers involved. One police lawyer, Carl Halvor Aas, later said he was totally convinced that this was a murder. The woman's strange behavior, which police were just beginning to uncover, was what they called conspiratory, not the actions of a typical suicide victim. Section 3. The suitcases at the station. Just a few days into the investigation, police got their first big break. 2 suitcases belonging to the woman were found in a luggage locker at the Bergen railway station. Investigators hoped the bags would finally tell them who she was. Instead, they were pulled even deeper into the puzzle. Inside was a bizarre collection of items that seemed designed to both create and erase a persona. There were clothes and shoes, but every single label had been carefully snipped off. There were several wigs of different colors and a pair of non-prescription glasses, classic tools for a disguise. An eczema cream offered a potential clue, but its label was also removed. Maybe the most important find was a single fingerprint left on a pair of sunglasses. It was the only one recovered in the entire case. The contents also pointed to a life of international travel. Hidden in the lining of one bag were 5 100 Deutsche Mark notes, along with a mix of Norwegian, Belgian, British, and Swiss coins. But the most tantalizing clue was a small notepad. Its pages were filled with what looked like code, a series of letters and numbers, that investigators hoped would unlock the entire mystery. Why would someone go to such extreme lengths to erase their identity, only to leave behind a coded diary? It was a contradiction that baffled everyone. Section 4. The Woman with a Dozen Faces. This is where the investigation turns from a strange death into a tale of international intrigue. Handwriting experts at Kripos, Norway's National Criminal Investigation Service, went to work on the notepad. They quickly figured out it wasn't a complex cipher, but a simple code she used to document her travels. The letters and numbers were just shorthand for dates and places she'd been. This travel log was the key. Using the handwriting from the notepad, investigators started matching it with check-in forms from hotels all over Norway and across Europe. And what they found was astonishing. The Isdal woman had been living a life on the move, using at least 8 different aliases, all with fake passports. She was Genevieve Lancier in Paris. She was Claudia Tielt in Bergen. She was Vera Jarl, Elizabeth Lienhoff, and Fenella Lorch. On every form, she claimed to be from Belgium, but experts believed her handwriting style was taught in France or a neighboring country. Hotel staff painted a picture of a guarded, elegant woman who kept to herself. She frequently changed rooms, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a single stay, and she always paid in cash. Several witnesses recalled her speaking German and broken English, and some remembered a distinct smell of garlic. She told people she was a traveling saleswoman or an antiques dealer, but her behavior was anything but ordinary. It was like she was constantly on guard, watching and waiting. This wasn't just a tourist. This was a woman who had mastered the art of being a ghost. It begged the question, what was she really doing in Norway? Section 5. Cold War Theories and Espionage. To understand the most compelling theory, you have to remember the time. 1970 was the peak of the Cold War. Norway, a NATO member sharing a border with the Soviet Union, was a hotbed for spies and secret operations. And right into this world of shadows walked the Isdal Woman. Her conspiratory behavior quickly got the attention of Norway's police surveillance agency. They launched their own secret investigation, and what they found was deeply unsettling. The woman's travels, once decoded, didn't seem random at all. Alarm bells went off when they realized her stays in certain towns suspiciously coincided with top-secret trials of the new Norwegian Penguin missile. Witnesses reported seeing her with military men, and one waitress remembered her dining near 2 German Navy officers. A chilling narrative began to take shape. Was the Isdal woman a spy? The multiple identities, the disguises, the coded notes, the constant travel, it all screams espionage tradecraft. If she was a spy, who was she working for? The Soviets? Another foreign power trying to get their hands on NATO technology? Her death in the remote Ice Valley suddenly looked less like a suicide and more like a silencing. Had her cover been blown? Was she eliminated by her enemies, or maybe even her own side? For more than 50 years, these questions have gone unanswered. The massive police investigation involving Interpol and law enforcement across Europe hit a dead end. Every alias was fake, the addresses didn't exist, and no country could find any record of her. In 1971, she was buried in an unmarked zinc coffin, designed to preserve her remains in case family ever came forward to claim her. The case was reopened in 2016, breathing new life into the mystery. Advanced isotope analysis of her teeth gave investigators a huge clue. She was likely born sometime before World War II, possibly in the region near the German-French border, and moved to France or a nearby country as a child. This lined up with the handwriting analysis but didn't give them a name. To this day, despite DNA profiles and ongoing investigations, her identity remains unknown. The official ruling is still suicide, but for many, the mountain of evidence pointing to a life of deception makes that hard to swallow. She remains a ghost, known only by the name of the Cold Valley where her story ended. A woman who existed everywhere and nowhere at once, leaving behind a legacy of secrets that we may never fully uncover. What do you think really happened to the Isdal woman? Was she a Cold War spy silenced for what she knew? Or is there another explanation for her strange life and even stranger death? Let me know your theories in the comments below.